Silver's story is one plagued with bad timings and even worse characterizations. However, recent developments from all avenues have lit the fire under many fans and shown just how much potential this guy has always possessed. Where does this leave the futuristic Hedgehog though? And can Sega strike while the iron is still hot? With all that being said, it's time to see how Silver's greatest weakness is now his greatest strength. We all know the story of Sonic 06. The actual endgame narrative, as well as the circumstances surrounding the real-life development hell that this game went through, so we won't retread the nitty-gritty on that. What we will hyper-focus on, however, are the concepts that the team tried to get fans on board with when it comes to Silver as a character. His purpose, placed within the overarching Sonic mythos, and why he didn't really capture the same lightning in a bottle that the Hedgehog before him was able to, can all be attributed to the fact that he was designed from the get-go to be ever-changing. Our time-traveling Hedgehog would be caught between two distinct identities for many a year after 06, spanning across various media. Is he this serious, straight-to-the-point and blunt person that puts the cart before the horse, or could he be considered a misunderstood hero with too much responsibility? It's a dichotomy that's plagued the Hedgehog for years on end, often resulting in a lack of understanding via players to ascertain who this character even is. But what's ironically the most confusing part? Both of these categorizations actually fit him quite well. You see, Silver may be from the future, but there's one thing that can be firmly believed: he is the middle child between a shadow of the past and the supersonic nature of the present. From the perspective of his design to the aforementioned attitudes in various media, the timeline jumper is the embodiment of a personality power struggle. Silver is and can be just as giddy as Sonic. He can also align with the straight road nature of Shadow, but where the White Hedgehog differs from his contemporaries is in purpose. Sonic and Shadow the Hedgehog are not heroes, at least not by the standard definition. They are people that have their own ways of handling issues that vary vastly, but if there's one constant between them specifically, it's that the two step up to the plate because of the wills that were implanted within them. For Sonic, it's just the right thing to do, and for Shadow, Maria had shown him just how much he could be if he just applied himself and used his abilities for a greater cause. Although they are typically the stars of their respective tales and many would see them as such, neither still are a hero. They may be the ones that handle the dilemmas presented, but are far from the only capable bodies in their time. Of course you have Knuckles, Rouge, Tails of course, and the cast list goes on. And heroes are not born after all. Rather, they're made and shaped by the dire predicaments they've experienced, and step up to bat when no one else can. In his distant timeline, Silver the Hedgehog is who can essentially be described as a last line of defense. Which seems like a crazy ask for a 14-year-old kid, but I digress. Speaking of being tasked with fighting insurmountable odds, the vicious whiplash that fans are hit with in regards to Silver typically comes from a misunderstanding of how people viewed his coming into the franchise. For as much flack as our boy gets for being introduced in one of the worst rated Sonic games ever, there has been a stark misconception on what exactly everyone viewed as the problem with the character themselves. I mean, for God's sake, it's another Hedgehog with cool powers, and telekinetic ones at that. And his design is, once again, this weird yet strangely familiar looking fusion of two of the coolest characters this series has ever come up with. The gold bangles, light up tattoo-esque markings, along with a cool yet striking color palette. So, what's the issue? No one cares about Silver's future. It's really as simple as that. We were never really given a reason to care about it, and still arguably haven't been given one if that's not too crazy for me to say. Yeah, he comes from a destroyed version of the world and boo-hoo, woe is me, but this isn't a future Trunks type of thing, even though that's one of his major inspirations. Usually it's the same boring thing over and over with this guy. Fiery future, go back in time, everything's fine. Fiery future, go back in time, everything's fine. Fiery future, go back in time, everything's fine. Is there really no way to give this dude a good storyline? Sage Robotnik is an enigma. Not because there's mystery surrounding who she is, but because of who she will be and the limitless options for the roads that can be taken with her character. By this point in time, I'm sure everyone's familiar with Corn's concept art of Silver's future and introducing a grown-up version of Sage as the Empress of the Eggman Empire, finally completing her father's lifelong dream of world domination. That idea and the things that were lit ablaze following his release of that artwork got many, including myself, tirelessly interested in something that we never really sat with before. What does the advent of Sage as a character mean for the cast? Conversations surrounding her always revolve around Sonic, Eggman, Metal Sonic, and if you're an IDW comic enjoyer, Bell. Up until CrossWorlds, talks about interactions with the cast outside of those four didn't make any type of waves, but with the floodgates seemingly bust wide open now, does Sage's essential immortality and vast knowledge on virtually the entire world make her a key part to Sonic, or rather, Silver's future? It wouldn't be the first Robotnik to ever go against the Chrono Voyager, but seeing as Eggman Nega is so far removed from the picture that he's folded behind the frame, I think this may be the path taken. Sit with it for a bit. You have the newest and most intriguing character of today going against the newest and most intriguing character in all of Sonic history. A formula that, if done correctly, could easily reverberate across the greater gaming landscape should all the necessary chips fall in line. Alas, there are stipulations that need to be met first. Unfortunately, as sensational as it would be to automatically jump to the world of Mobius' future, we can't exactly progress to that point without initially setting up quite a number of important foundational pieces. As it stands, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds of all things is the latest in terms of the overarching mythos. This is Sage's official return back into the canon, as evident by the Crosstalk episode featuring her and the extended Robotnik lineage. Where Sonic Frontiers was a story that, yes, lore-wise, spanned more than a couple thousand years or so, it still inherently acted as a more contained plot. A plot that focused heavily on the past and only offered glimpses of the future. Conversely, and to its strong suit funnily enough, a number of locales found within Sonic Racing CrossWorlds have not been explored yet, and that's by design, if I may argue. We're not supposed to know anything about any of these places. Yet. I'm talking about your Crystal Mines, Coral Towns, Steampunk Cities, and Aqua Forests. Sure, these may be locations on entirely different planes of existence that the Donpha brought together, but without any concrete answers currently, these could very well be on Sonic's world for all intents and purposes. I say all of this to hammer home the point that there's much to be uncovered, both in terms of the dimension itself, in addition to the characters and relationships they'll either form with one another or abandon, willfully or otherwise. We don't talk enough about how either Sonic and Eggman can end their debacle with one another whenever they want, but if we were, in the case of the Good Doctor at least, then that genuinely raises the question of, what happens when Eggman is really gone? Is he a means to an end, or just a stopgap of something more sinister from a rise? The future is yet to be written, but the past is set in stone. Silver's story is one plagued with bad timings and even worse characterizations. However, recent developments from all avenues have lit the fire under many fans and shown just how much potential this guy has always possessed. Silver's once greatest weakness is now his greatest strength. The future of the Sonic series as a whole is looking brighter than ever, both in-game and in the real world. I don't think I've ever been this excited to see what's next for the series as much as I am now, and time just can't move any faster, unfortunately. Sonic 06 always should have been a much bigger game, and Silver himself always should have been a much bigger member of the cast, along with a few others, but it's his turn right now. Unironically, I, no pun intended, go as far as to say as this little temple tourist is the future of the series, the man of tomorrow. If CrossWorlds' iteration of him is anything to go by, it's showing that Sonic Team is finally beginning to understand a bit of what we want from the guy. He walks a fine line between Sonic and Shadow, but he's just not them, and it should stay that way. There are at least 6 Avengers level threats in the form of Sonic characters, and the fact that they've been underutilized for so long will forever piss me off. Yet I can't shake this feeling that we're about to get something big. Perhaps it's not Silver's futuristic brawl against a daughter emboldened by concluding her father's life work after all this time. As of yet. But maybe it's something instead that they can be a part of, and have the story as a whole go as big as it's always wanted to, so that something generational can be told. But what are your hopes for both Silver the Hedgehog and Sage, and did you fall into the hype cycle while being able to see the potential for their distant, or not so distant, battle for the future? Let me know what y'all think, as always, but that's it from me, and I'll be seeing you real soon.